Hi, I'm Meredith Blackwell. I'm at the IMC 12 in Maastricht, Netherlands, and it's the 14th of August 2024, and I am here to talk to Professor Gareth Jones, and I've known him for a number of years as a member of the British Mycological Society and world traveler and researcher, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his career. First, we'd like to hear where he's from. I don't know if he's from Wales or not with that Welsh name, but why don't you start there?
Okay then. Is that picking up my voice? Yeah. Oh, it's already there.
You have your own microphone.
Okay. Gareth Jones. I was born on a farm in South Wales, Carmarthen, South Wales, and went to a local school, and then my parents took me out of school because there was only one teacher teaching 50 students from 5 up to 15. So I then had a year when I wasn't being taught at all, and then because government whips came round and decided they would prosecute my father unless we were put back into school. So I moved to another local school, and from there went to the grammar school, and then Queen Elizabeth Grammar School, and worked my way up. I went into the Welsh stream.
What is that?
Well, the grammar school was divided into 3 streams.
Okay.
A stream, which was the top stream, then Welsh for Welsh-speaking students, and English for local English-speaking people. And
So Welsh was your first language?
of course it is Welsh. And I sat my 11 plus, there was hardly any English in it. We only had to answer 2 questions in English. And so everything was predominantly Welsh. Welsh was the only language spoken at home. And so after 2 years, after becoming head of first student every year in my stream, I was pushed up to the A stream, which was a little difficult because they had a slightly more rapid progressed syllabus, and I was excused Latin because it was too late to learn Latin after 2 years. Then moved on to do O-levels. I was specializing in music, and I then went on to think about doing my A-levels. And the whole plan was that I would do music.
Was that vocal music or instrument?
Instrumental. And my uncle, who was a headmaster, said, "How good are you as a musician? Are you going to be a concert pianist?" And I said, "Well, that's ridiculous. No, I'm not going to be a concert pianist." So, well, he said, "Well, you better think about what sort of career you want." So I literally cried all the way home because nobody had ever asked me how good I was before, but it was quite obvious that I knew my capabilities. So I then decided the only subject I knew anything at all about was biology, being born on a farm and used to countryside. And so for the A-level part of the syllabus, I did a project on mushrooms. The Basidiomycetes growing under different trees. Were there any difference in composition in terms of which fungus grew up where and so on? So went to University at Aberystwyth to do botany. And again, I did a project on marine fungi. that was after my supervisors said I wanted to do gastromycetes. She said, "My dear chap, everything is known about gastromycetes. You're wasting your time. And why don't you do marine fungi?" Well, I knew enough about marine fungi that there was hardly anything done on marine fungi. There was only a couple of papers by Sam Myers and so on. That's why you should do marine mycology. So 60 years later, I'm still struggling with marine fungi. So there we are. I went on to do a master's degree, and
At Aberystwyth.
that was at the university, but it was at the regional college in Portsmouth.
Oh, okay.
And after graduating masters, I went to Leeds University to work on the physiology of marine fungi, and returned to Portsmouth then as a junior lecturer and worked my way up the ranks. One of the things I was determined to do when I got to Portsmouth was that I would want to do at least one day research. So I used to teach 2 evening classes that allowed me 1 free day to go to the marine lab which we had. So that way we gradually accumulated research students. Within about a year or two, I had 4 research students working on different mycology projects. So again, eventually promoted to reader and professor eventually. And during that period, right up till about 1997, I must have had something in the region of 80 PhD students.
Wow.
Not only on marine mycology, but in different topics as well. Because my feeling was that if I taught people just marine mycology, there were no jobs for them. So I always picked subjects for them to research on, and in the hope that they would get a better job.
Well, that's where I met you in Portsmouth the first time when I met you in person.
Okay, there we are then, yeah.
A marine biology.
Well, we organised at least 2 major conferences in Portsmouth.
Now, you've traveled more widely than outside of Wales to England.
Yeah.
Where else have you gone?
Yeah. Well, there's no jobs in Wales. I mean, there was, when my ex-supervisor, Irene Wilson, retired, I thought, well, possibly a chance there. But Professor Waring was adamant. No, I'm not taking people from the department because no new ideas coming in. So he made it quite clear that I had no chance of getting an appointment there. So I had quite a successful career in Portsmouth, and then decided to retire relatively early because I always wanted to work in Asia. I went to IMC in Tokyo, Osaka, and I thought, stopped over in Singapore to see Tekun Tan, and I decided that was the area I wanted really to work in. There were so much opportunities to look at fungi of all descriptions in Asia. So after retiring, I had the 3-year appointment at Hong Kong University, and established quite a good research group there, looking at mainly things like Staphylococcus fungi, or what they were fungi in those days. After that, I moved up to biotech in Thailand, and I was there for nearly 12 years back and forth.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that long.
And then you met me there as well. And then we went to Malaysia for 3 years, and currently working in Saudi Arabia, trying to stimulate research interest there. So it's been a favorite, quite a varied career, and of course working in the tropics, mainly on mangroves. Now that's an area I really enjoyed very much.
Retirement meant nothing to you. Sounds like that's when you moved around the most and maybe collected the most varied fungi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at 87, I'm still working, so
Nice.
I'm publishing new fungi.
And you're back in Portsmouth?
Well, I live in Portsmouth,
Okay.
and I have my own laboratory there, so I can collect material,
Okay.
examine it, and get it processed.
Now, you've worked with other mycologists who are at Portsmouth, right? Is that where Stephen Moss was?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. And
Well,
then,
one of the things that it became obvious when we were working with Thrasochytrid fungi was that you needed to look at things from an ultrastructural point of view. And I discovered one new genus in Thrasochytrid was Althonia crouchi, which we isolated from oysters. And it was quite unique. It differed from all the other Thrasochytrids because it doesn't have an ectoplasmic net system. And so I went back to Leeds University, and Professor Manton was the guru of microscopy in those days. And so I learnt how to do electron microscopy there. And then it became obvious when I got back to Portsmouth that, that was a facility that we really should have. Because we'd also had a project on biofilm formation on ships and producing protective measures in paints, marine paints. And so we looked a lot at bacterial adhesion, fungal adhesion, and also diatom adhesion. And so we had quite a team around that period. Then also at the same time, we had a project on the Mary Rose. Mary Rose was a Tudor ship.
I saw the Mary Rose.
So that was recovered. And
It was a ship that didn't sail very long, correct?
Yeah. It sank before the eyes of Henry
Was it
VIII.
Henry VIII? It was on the maiden voyage of the Mary Rose.
Yes, she went down because the shutters were open, the gunwales were open, the French were coming in on attack. She took a tack, and of course she tilted over, the ports were open, and she went down, she went. Of course, all of that material had to be conserved. So we had quite an interesting series of projects in terms of how do we conserve the timbers. We didn't really want to do exactly what they did for the Wasser. And so the first step was to wash out all the seawater and then let it dry and then start on the glycol treatment and using increment concentrations, not just one concentration, but gradually get the wood to absorb the different glycols and so on. And there were other artifacts as well that we were looking at the decay of the wood, the state of decay of the timbers. It's quite an exciting project, really. And now gradually the ship got dried out. After a certain amount of impregnation, she was allowed to dry out. And then she was retilted and a museum built around her, so that the floors of the museum correspond to the different decks of the ship. The ultimate objective is that you will be, or you might be able to walk on the actual decks themselves. It's a marvelous collection, pottery, coins, the most magnificent collection of arrows, long bows and arrows, and these were perfectly preserved in the mud and the solents. So,
Well, I saw that exhibit when I went to that meeting. I think you had arranged a tour for it.
yeah, yeah,
It was a really impressive place. The whole museum was.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now it's a major tourist event
Yeah.
with, I don't know, nearly 1,000 visitors a year. So it's a really good attraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. Worldwide, there are not that many people that work with marine fungi. So you kind of were in a nice niche. You were steered well by your professor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, of course, we got 2,114 species.
And how many of these are restricted to marine environments?
Well, they fall into two classes, Meredith. There are the fungi that are substrate based,
Right.
and then there are those that you isolate from water and from sediments. And the latter group contains very ephemeral fungi, penicillium, aspergillus, and so on. And but there are now beginning to find more substantive species there. Members of the little worthy aliens are cropping up. But of course the core mycology are the substrate-based ones. And those are the ones I study.
Yeah.
And we've looked at classification and looked at production of metabolites, you name it, we've looked at it. With the thrasticators, we've been involved with see if we can get production of fatty acids using waste materials. And that project carries on. In Egypt, where we're using dates as a substrate. Trouble is that when you're growing thrasticators, you have to have something like glucose. Glucose is expensive. It's not really worthwhile using it for large-scale production. So in Egypt, there's a whole range of products like dates. They're not commercially something that you can sell.
Viable.
So there's a huge tonnage of wasted type of dates, and that's proving a good source of substrate for the thrasticators. So there we are. That's
Very interesting.
That's Jones et al.
So how many years ago was it that you retired from Portsmouth?
Oh, I retired over 30 years ago.
Yeah. What a career. 2 careers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
carry on.
Very nice to hear all this, because I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you carry on, I carry on.
Yeah.
One more year. You hope that one more year.
Well,
That's all.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, someone asked me, will I go to the next Congress in South Korea? And
Yeah.
I probably won't make that. But anyway, it's good to have got here.
You're
So,
younger than me, so you
well,
might.
I know, but anyway, thank you so much for
Very well.
talking to us.